Let's be honest. Most people aren't broke because they don't know how to budget or because they eat too many avocado toasts. You can blame the economy, but the truth is, wealth has never been easier to access. The reality is that most people are broke because their nervous system is running their finances. And it's operating like you're in the middle of a disaster renovation. You make money and then it leaks out. You get a win and then a loss. You raise your worth and then you panic and discount. And the supposed pros call it a money problem or a quote unquote mindset problem, when it's not. It's a safety problem. And by safety, I mean attachment. Because if your system learned early that stability can disappear, that support isn't reliable, that wanting more is dangerous, then your body will treat wealth like a threat, even while your mind is screaming, "Gimme freedom." So today we're going underneath the spreadsheets. We're talking attachment. We're talking shape. We're talking how your earliest experiences shape your financial reality today, and why you keep working twice as hard just to stay in the same place.
You're listening to The Science and Spirit of Happy, a podcast unpacking the sustainable dreams theory. This revolutionary work is grounded in a simple truth: that your dream is your destiny. And your happiness is just a symbol of your purpose unfolding.
Good day, y'all! Welcome back. I'm so excited to be talking with you today about wealth, and specifically how your attachment style quietly dictates what income level or how much financial stability and how much financial freedom, how many material opportunities you can actually reach. More importantly, sustain. So this topic is near and dear to my heart, not just because my idea of the good life is acreages in the most sought after areas for real estate, but because I also want to be home with my kids. And no shade into any parent who wants to work full-time or anyone who wants to work full-time, but my idea of the good life is living like I was born into money when I wasn't. And the higher up you go in levels of wealth, the less hours people work. And being born with the assets is a great step up. But the real privilege being raised in wealth brings is a nervous system that can hold it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you're trying to break generational patterns, build something bigger than anything you've ever seen modeled, or step into a life that your childhood never prepared you for, this episode is going to feel like someone turned the lights on, finally. This is doubly true for anyone trying to change their financial standing dramatically from where they came from, because you've got further to grow. So if you're familiar with the Science and Spirit of Happy, or with my proprietary research, the Sustainable Dreams Theory, which is the framework I originally prepared for academic publication before choosing to build it into a practical methodology for real people with real goals, then you already know this. Okay, wealth and wealth building belong to the district of body. How my methodology works is by breaking down all the facets of human development into step-by-step capacities, or what I call personal powers. So those personal powers are organized into districts: mind, heart, soul, and body. This is what makes the method so effective, okay? It's holistic. So it completes people's journey towards self-actualization, so that's becoming your best self, living your best life, wherever they're currently at. So money lies in the physical, in the body. More technically, it spans from energy to physical, but the results are very physical in nature. Resources are mostly physical. Assets are mainly physical. Earning, spending, saving, expanding all require a nervous system, a body that feels safe enough to grow. So yes, money also lives in the energetic layer of reality. And we'll talk about that in episodes 4 and 5 of this season when we discuss the personal powers in the energy or soul district. But the having of resources, the holding of resources, and the capacity for expansion are fundamentally physical experiences. They belong to your body, the environment, the physical. And if you've read my book, you'll know I typically explain the personal powers from the top down, right? From the mind first, because the mind is the control room. Learning to use it consciously is an excellent place to begin making changes. And then we go into heart and soul or energy, and finally, body. However, when we're talking about attachment, when we're talking about how our earliest experiences shaped who we became, the direction reverses. Early childhood development doesn't happen top down, okay? It happens bottom up. Children develop first through the body, then through the spirit, then through the heart, and finally through the mind. Your first needs were physical. When babies are born, they want physical comforts and safety. They want food, shelter, to know their needs will be met. This is where your development began, in your body's requirements and how well they were met. So for this season, the attachment season, we're moving through the theory in the order that human beings actually develop. And that means we begin where everything begins, in the body. Which brings us to today's topic, bounty. The personal power of abundance, opportunity, of momentum, of expansion, and material flow. Okay, bounty is not about being grateful or looking on the bright side, or it could be worse, or it could be better comparisons. Okay, it's not about discipline hacks or willpower. Bounty is the lived sense of, I have enough. There is always more coming. The world wants to support me. I can easily grow. I can follow through. I can hold more. I can make bold decisions without panic. And most importantly, I belong in a life that is bigger than the one I came from. This isn't lip service, okay? It's not just an affirmation to make you feel good. This is nature. This is the premise of evolution summed up. Okay, it's written in what essentially every single parent who's ever lived wants to provide for their children. More. You ask any parent what they want for their child, and their answer will be some form of more than I had. It's natural and normal to not only want more, but to get there. How much more is up to you, but it's your attachment style or your attachment patterning that shapes that capacity. It shapes how safe your body feels with money, with opportunity, with success, with rest, with support, and expansion. What developmental psychologists call your attachment describes the patterns that control not just your earning potential, but your motivation, your ability to follow through, your risk tolerance, your consistency, your sense of readiness, your ability to grow beyond your upbringing, and your internal ceiling on wealth, success, and possibility. Imagine what you could do with the keys to that nut. If you're someone who constantly feels not quite ready, or who works hard but doesn't seem to get ahead, or who experiences big bursts followed by burnout, or who gets to success but still feels emotionally broke, or the person who can't seem to change their financial reality no matter how much they learn, or maybe even earn, this episode and the entire Body District arc is going to make sense of your whole life. Because wealth isn't random. It certainly isn't luck. And it isn't just mindset. There's a compelling stat that isn't really a stat circulating about how 70% of lottery winners go broke. Well, it's not really backed up. We don't have the stats on them to make that analysis. The person who said it was an expert in the topic. And lottery winners are more likely to declare bankruptcy. So if the ultimate privilege in wealth building was cold hard cash, these numbers wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. The truth is a hard pill to swallow for some. That the ultimate privilege is having an upbringing that conditions you to expect more. Your relationship with money was patterned into your body long before you had words. So to the ones who feel like their level of wealth is completely out of their hands, I mean, you're right in one sense. It was imprinted in you so early, you had no conscious choice and no conscious recollection of it. But to the ones who desperately want to grab hold of their financial reality and create real freedom, it can be done. And I will show you how. So don't let this be another self-defeating fact you take in to uphold the narrative that you can't do it. Okay, it's a pattern, and patterns can be repatterned. You've probably already been doing this work, okay? I'm just going to make it a hell of a lot more straightforward. Today, we begin unwinding those patterns so you can finally create wealth with a nervous system that feels safe enough to hold it, to enjoy it, and to develop by expanding into it. Before we move on, I want to explain something that is absolutely foundational to why my methodology works and why so many other approaches fall apart when you try to apply them in the real world. There is a major difference between how I understand belief and how most people talk about it. So in the personal development world, we tend to lump almost everything into mindset or some floating sense of what emotions are. Okay, we hear from the manifestation people that you just need a better money mindset. Or the statisticians say you need more emotional intelligence. That's the leading indicator of success, actually. Or the motivational speakers say you just need to believe in yourself. But here's the problem. Most of what people call mindset doesn't actually live in the mind. And most of what people call emotional intelligence is actually neurological maturity. That neurological maturity is the ability to integrate data from all the districts, right? Mind, heart, spirit, body, and choose to move accordingly. Look up what emotional intelligence is. It's being even-keeled and mature about yourself, mature about others, about life, etc. Okay, it's not about emotions at all. I call that neurological and therefore behavioral maturity, and it's part of what I call reality IQ. People call it emotional intelligence because people who have it can regulate their behaviors that arise from emotions, because emotions tend to be the wild cards in the deck. But behavior, my friends, is physical. It's body. And it's part of that maturity. One of the 4 integral parts of that neurological maturity, that developmental measuring stick I call reality IQ, is what I call somatic IQ, the intelligence of the body. And belief, true belief, okay, the kind that dictates your reactions, your motivations, your risk tolerance, your ability to follow through, your willingness to receive, your sense of what is possible, does not live in the mind at all. It lives in the body. That's why it arises knee-jerk. It's instinct. It's body. And if you keep trying to access belief through mindset work, you'll continue to fail. Belief is not a mindset skill. Belief is physical. Belief lives in the body. It belongs to BodiSet. Yes, there are places in the brain where belief is stored, but I'm not talking about conscious belief, the kind you journal about or repeat in affirmations. I'm talking about the beliefs that operate you, the unconscious, instinctual, deeply patterned truths your body holds about the world. They came long before you could even think about the world. That level of mind, unconscious mind, is the same level that keeps you breathing without thinking about it. Okay, and it governs reflexes, reactions, impulses, survival patterns, pressure responses, and feelings of familiarity. You don't think about those things. You are them. This is where belief actually lives. So when I talk about belief in this episode, I'm not talking about deciding to believe something. I'm talking about the beliefs baked into your body as neurological programming, as physical nervous system patterning, as muscle memory, as instinct. Beliefs that determine what you pursue, what you avoid, what feels safe, what feels unrealistic, what feels natural, what feels impossible, what you follow through on, what you shut down around. These belief patterns dictate your actions or make action close to impossible. They determine whether a goal feels exciting and aligned, or whether that same goal feels threatening, aggravating, draining, or just not for you. None of this is woo. None of this is metaphysics. This is grounded neuroscience and grounded strategy. Because what beliefs really do is either open the body to action, to receiving, to pursuing, or they shut the body down. Grab your phone or a snack instead. So I want you to really hear me on this now. Your ability to take the actions required for wealth building is not a question of willpower. It is a question of patterned belief. And if you push through, you white knuckle the actions with limiting beliefs in your body, you either fail, which is actually a blessing in disguise, or you succeed and feel not only hollow, but trapped by the success, by needing to force the actions again and again. This is why 3 people can learn the same wealth or even health strategy. One thrives, one collapses. The third gets the things and still feels crap. It's not intelligence. It's not discipline. It's not talent. Somatic IQ, the body's operating system. Your beliefs were started to be built in the first 3 years of life. A child's earliest experiences teach them whether the world is abundant or scarce, whether opportunity is real or danger, whether rest is rewarded or punished, whether support will come or not, whether trying is worth it, whether effort pays off, whether resources flow or are hard to come by, whether there is room for them, the real them, or not. These aren't thoughts. They're experiences that turn into embodied expectations. These expectations become the template for your adult life. If caregiving was attuned, rhythmic, predictable, and supportive, if your caregivers had enough, the body learns there's enough. Support comes, my needs matter, the world responds to me, expansion is safe, I can grow. This develops the personal power of bounty, a somatic expectation of possibility, of abundance, of expansion. But if caregiving was inconsistent, chaotic, rejecting, anxious, or overwhelming, if your caregivers were raising you with far less than a full cup, the body learns resources can disappear. I should brace for loss. Support is not a given. I might be on my own. And more is probably painful to hope for. Trying is risky with no guarantee. This creates what I call scarcity wiring, the first bounty distorted pattern. And here's the part that changes everything. If your body learned that resources were unpredictable, your adult life will mirror that pattern no matter how intelligent you are. This is why you can't think your way into a wealthy lifestyle. You can't affirm your way out of a survival script. You can't strategy your way into wealth if your body is rejecting it. You can't live a life your nervous system isn't safe holding, because it doesn't matter how many goals you set, how many planners you buy, how many strategies you study, how many opportunities come your way. If your body is uncomfortable with expansion, you cannot live the life you're trying to create. You cannot embrace what you're actively bracing against. Statistically, this is why most people cannot sustainably change their financial standing much from their parents' level of wealth. Not because they're lazy or unmotivated, and it's not even because they lack the money management skills, but because their bodily belief system, largely shaped in infancy, is still running the show. This is not your fault. This is your pattern. And patterns can be rewritten. So now, with that foundation laid, let's look at the very first bounty pattern, the one almost everyone struggles with: scarcity wiring. So the first sign that your somatic IQ has taken a dent or is running a deficit is something I call scarcity wiring. And I want to be really clear here, okay? Scarcity wiring is not a quote unquote scarcity mindset, okay? This isn't thinking negatively or having low self-worth, though that is related. It's not understanding budgeting or, buying too much avocado toast. It's an attachment-shaped survival pattern. It is instinct. Its roots are pre-verbal. It is embodied. It is not something you think. It is something your body started learning before you even had memory, before you had language, and long before you had any conscious say in who you were becoming. Scarcity wiring is the body's default expectation of not enough, okay? That includes not enough time, not enough support, not enough safety, not enough opportunity, not enough space for you. And because it's somatic, because it lives in the nervous system as pattern and rhythm, it shows up automatically, instantly, and without your consent. This is why people can be brilliant, strategic, talented, hardworking, and still chronically stuck in financial stagnation. Not because they don't know better, but because the body is running a survival script older than their conscious awareness. But where does this scarcity wiring come from? Well, it's not from, quote unquote, bad parents, okay? In fact, the vast majority of scarcity wiring comes from good, well-meaning parents who were simply overwhelmed themselves, burnt out, distracted, unsupported, or just living through their own unresolved scarcity patterns. This is why my book is called Be Yourself, Not Your Parents. Because even when the people who raised you were loving, dedicated, and doing everything they could, okay, their patterns still become your patterns, not out of an intention. It's out of biology. A baby's nervous system absorbs the emotional climate of the adults in the room. The body sets its expectations based on the cadence of care. Not the words, not the lessons that they tried to teach, not the discipline style, just the rhythm. So if your caregiver was exhausted, depressed, anxious, inconsistent, delayed, avoidant, or simply doing their best while drowning themselves, okay, your body learned there isn't enough for me or anyone else around me. Support is not reliable. My needs are an inconvenience to people. I should take less, want less, ask for less. If I relax, something bad could happen to what I have now. What I need could disappear. This is scarcity wiring, and it has nothing to do with mindset, intelligence, or willpower. It is an embodied expectation, almost as physical as your instinct to breathe. Scarcity wiring does not stay in childhood. It becomes the filter you experience adulthood through. It shows up in the body as fight or flight around financial decisions. Spending, investing, or raising prices triggers panic. Okay, small money choices feel dangerous. Tension or collapse around abundance. Your chest tightens when you think about opportunity. You shut down around administrative or financial tasks. Interpreting expansion as a threat or new opportunities spiking cortisol. Excitement can feel like fear. Long-term planning becomes impossible because rest feels unsafe and stillness feels like vulnerability and pleasure feels like guilt. And long-term consistency collapses under burnout. Follow through feels overwhelming. You want to build wealth. You plan to build wealth. Your mind is clear. Your strategy makes sense. But when it's time to act, the body says, no. That's not because you're lazy, but because you were patterned for survival, not expansion. No one can sustainably build wealth with a body that interprets opportunity as a danger. And this is the part most people never connect. The body is not scared of money. Your body is scared of the messaging you absorbed about abundance. If receiving felt unsafe then, receiving will feel unsafe now. If expansion felt unpredictable then, expansion will feel like a danger now. If asking for more once created tension or flack, your body will still brace for it in adulthood. Scarcity wiring blocks wealth because it blocks the behaviors wealth requires, like risk tolerance, consistent follow-through, steady rhythms, clear decision-making, healthy boundaries, rest, openness to opportunity, receiving support, trusting support, seeing potential, being comfortable with abundance, staying. This is why wealthy families tend to produce wealthy children, not because of financial privilege alone, though that does matter in a few ways, but mainly because the body was patterned to expect abundance. And it's also why people who win the lottery often return to their old financial baseline. Why people who lose weight usually gain it all back. It's not because people are irresponsible. It's because the body cannot sustain what it is not wired to hold. Their somatic IQ could not metabolize the expansion. And everyone is trying to fix this with mindset work. You cannot outthink scarcity wiring. You cannot affirm your way out of a survival script. You cannot mindset your way past the body's expectations, but you can rewire it. When you heal somatic IQ, when you repair the belief level patterns in the body, bounty behaviors start to develop naturally, including steady daily, weekly, monthly, yearly rhythms, consistent follow-through, ease with money, confidence in asking for more, risk tolerance without panic, rest that replenishes, momentum without burnout, motivation that lasts, decisions grounded in embodied clarity, the ability to hold abundance, the ability to enjoy abundance. That is the promise of the personal power of bounty. It's not magical thinking. It's not manifestation as avoidance, okay? This is real physiological rewiring that makes wealth feel natural rather than threatening. Quick pause, because if you're listening thinking, okay, but how do I actually fix this? I hear you. Okay, what we're doing right now is naming the pattern. This is the map. These are what I call bounty deficits, dense and deficits in the body district in your somatic IQ. And scarcity wiring is just pattern number 1. There are a few other common patterns that live in this same district. Pattern 2 is broken momentum. So that's when you get the spark and you start strong and then it just collapses because your system doesn't expect effort to be met by reality. Pattern 3 is constriction over expansion. So that's when growth feels unsafe. So you tighten, delay, over control, call it, being responsible, even when it costs you. Pattern 4 is what I call chaos, urgency, collapse. And that's when constriction can't hold anymore, the last pattern. So you swing into urgency or impulsive moves and then crash into shutdown or burnout. Now, I'm not going to pretend we can repattern all of these in a single podcast episode. Okay, these patterns don't get fixed by insight. Insight is the beginning. They get fixed by building capacity, repatterning, rewiring, reworking. Okay, it's making a conscious decision to follow through. That's what the information is for. And this is what the membership is for, the follow through. Inside the membership, we focus on one personal power each month, and members get the proprietary tools and therapies that actually repower that capacity. So these patterns stop running your life and you get to choose. So if you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in the scarcity, in the broken momentum, in the constriction, or in the cycles of urgency and collapse, I want you to hear this clearly. None of these patterns mean that you're bad with money. They don't mean you inherently lack what it takes. They don't mean that you're incapable of wealth building and keeping and sustaining. They mean your body learned a set of rules about safety, effort, and expansion, and it's been living by those rules ever since. And the most important thing to understand is this: these patterns are not permanent. They're not your personality. They're not your destiny. They are not who you are. They are somatic IQ patterns, and somatic IQ can be restored. When bounty is healthy in the body, life feels different, okay? Not perfect, not literally effortless, but regulated. High somatic IQ looks like steady energy instead of spikes, motivation that sustains instead of collapses, growth that feels natural instead of draining, rest that restores instead of triggering guilt, money that flows, stays, expands, decisions made from clarity, not urgency, effort that feels worth it, a body that expects support to meet it and feels like, I have time, I can build, I can receive, I don't need to rush, I don't need to hoard, I can enjoy what I'm creating. And that's not luck. That's regulation. That's a body that trusts reality enough to grow inside it. When somatic IQ is repaired, desire no longer breaks through as irresponsibility. Opportunity no longer triggers panic. Motivation no longer needs to be forced, and rest no longer comes as collapse. Bounty becomes rhythmic, steady, enjoyable, sustainable. And this is the work I teach. If you want to understand all of the personal powers deeply, how the body, spirit, heart, and mind each develop their own intelligence, and how attachment shapes every one of them, the book goes into that specifically in full. And if you want to actually heal and strengthen bounty, not just understand it intellectually, but change how your nervous system relates to money, to effort, to expansion, that's what we do inside the membership with my proprietary tools and therapies. This is not mindset work, though we do work on the mind in the membership. It's not hustle. It's not forcing yourself into someone else's version of success. It's teaching the body that expansion is safe, that effort is met by abundance, that abundance can stay. And when the body learns that, wealth stops feeling like a fight. Money stops feeling like a struggle. You don't need to become a different person to create that wealth and that financial freedom. You need a body that trusts the world enough to grow in it. And that trust can be rebuilt. We'll pick this up next time as we continue through the body district, because bounty is only the beginning. So stay tuned.